And in the streets of Ireland, all the children had to do was play. And everybody loves everybody in the good old USA. We sure could use a little good news today. Nobody robbed a liquor store on the Lord.
Field McConnell.
Hello, Field. It's Paula. How are you?
Well, it depends on what day it is. I'm trending in the right direction, but I have good days and I have some that are not so enjoyable. But I'm having a good day today. And also, I've got some exciting news for you. I don't remember if I told you, but there's people that have been telling me how much they care about me and how I need to take care of my health. So Wednesday of this week, I'm going to a urgent care facility to have a series of tests run to find out what's been wrong with me.
That's excellent news. I'm very happy. Very happy.
Yeah, well, I know there are a lot of people that have been wanting me to get better, but the problem with that is if you don't know what the medical condition is, you probably are not going to solve it outside of a hospital. And the other end of the extreme is if you do know what the medical event is and you're pretty sure you know what caused it, you can think you're going to be able to cure it. Well, my health started to decline probably when I was in jail, but it declined significantly beginning in October of 2022.
Yeah.
And I had no idea why I was becoming weak and frail. And then I had a series of 3 people come and visit me. Person from Colorado and then a person from Texas. And now I've got a lady stopping by pretty much every day to check on me.
Yeah.
And they all agree what's wrong with me. I have not been eating enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, they can yell and scream. And as you know, I have a friend who likes to be critical of me. And one of the reasons that friend is critical of me is he thinks that I have enough willpower to force myself to eat. Well, I've been trying to do that for at least 3 months, and I haven't succeeded.
Yeah.
But I have made the difficult. Go ahead.
No, I'm just agreeing with you. Yes, because I've been here through this journey with you, and I know the efforts that have been made by others and by yourself to restore your health and your appetite. And so please do continue. I'm just agreeing with you as we go.
Well, did you just say that you've been with me through this all?
I have. I've been on the phone with you almost every day through this whole journey. And I know what you've been through. It's been tough.
Yeah, and you're the one that knows the best, Paula. There's no one in the world that knows better than you.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, it's been a painful journey. But I think, I think we're going to prevail. And you are sounding better every day. I'm glad.
Oh, good.
I'm glad that our new friend is with you every day. That's a huge plus. I feel a lot better knowing that somebody is popping in on a regular basis.
Oh, you're gonna feel even better when I tell you something I don't think I've told you yet.
Well, please go ahead.
I'm gonna get her. either Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, she will become my medical power of attorney.
Nice.
Yeah. And as
Nice.
soon as I sign the paper, it becomes effective. So you don't have to wait to have it cleared. And I also have another power of attorney, and you know who he is.
Yeah.
But, I've been accused of a lot of things in my life, nothing significant. But one thing I've been accused of is having a controlling personality disorder. Do you mind if I address that for 30 seconds?
Please go ahead. Floor's all yours, Field.
Yeah, well, when someone's the captain of a wide-body airliner that crosses the oceans every time he takes off, he has to be capable of being in control of whatever may beset him. And so, I've been a pilot. I've been a pilot that's in command of an airplane, large or small, since 1972. And so far, I haven't crashed. I haven't killed anybody. I haven't damaged an airplane. But the really surprising or the surprising fact is I haven't gotten in trouble for the way I operate.
Yeah.
So, I do things my way, just like Paul Anka and Elvis and Frank Sinatra.
They do it my way.
Yeah, well, I can't do something your way,
No.
but I want to be very precise in saying that you have been my closest ally for 6 months or more, and you're the go-to person. And so when I have a question, I go to you. And if anybody's interested in my well-being, I would appreciate it if they don't come to me, because, I may sound good on the phone right now, but if I stay on the phone too long, I sound less and less good. And so people who really do care about me and really want to know what's going on with me, they know how to get a hold of me, and I'm not on probation anymore, so that's no longer an issue, except for between my ears, because I was either incarcerated or on house arrest or on probation for so long. It's difficult for me to realize and put into action that I'm free to be me now.
Yeah. I understand that. Some people would call that being institutionalized, because they say a lot of people that are free, that have been incarcerated for a while, have a really hard time stepping out of those restraints. And I think even Moses had problems during the days that he freed all the people. They couldn't get out of that, the slave mentality of still being, imprisoned, right? So I think it's just human nature. Once you've been there, but you are starting to break free, and I see progress in you every day. So,
good, that's great.
Yeah. I just keep telling people, when you're ready to go live stream, you'll be ready, and not sooner. This is not
about... I'm anxious.
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm anxious to go live.
I know you
are. But I'm not anxious to sound bad.
Yeah, exactly. So, like I've said to you, and I'll say this to the audience, you need to be strong enough to come back out. And you're getting there. I can vouch for that. But there's no point in coming out too soon, because I don't want your health to deteriorate. I'd rather you be healthy and strong first, and go from there. But that's my opinion. When you're ready, Field, you'll let me know. I know you will. You'll let everybody know. So,
well, we're going to make a large step forward on Wednesday, because by the end of the day Wednesday, I will have the results of blood work, urinalysis, EKG, and having a doctor stare at me across the table and ask me questions.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that might help because you never know. There could be some underlying infection or something that's, stopping you from having an appetite and also decreasing your functions. I know that you've had balance issues and strength issues, and we know that a lot of that has been caused by you not having an appetite, but there may be other issues, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't ever withhold anything from you, Paula,
Yeah.
and you're the only one that I do not withhold things from. But did you know I had an ambulance called twice this past week?
I do know of. Well, I didn't know of the ambulance this past week, but I did know of the ambulance a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, well, you'll find out that I'm a real jerk for communication, and if I said this past week, that's what I meant. I had 2 ambulance calls last week.
Really?
Yeah.
You didn't tell
And,
me.
well, I have to sleep and I have to breathe.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I just don't, I know who to tell. If I'm going to tell anybody, it's going to be you. But what I encourage you to do is, the wife and husband that are neighbors to me that are, transporting me to the medical facility on Wednesday. You know who they are,
Yes,
correct?
I do. Yes, I do.
Yeah, well, talk to the husband. He was there both times the ambulance came.
I will. I will.
Yeah.
Did they call the ambulance?
No, eyewitnesses to my behavior did. Like the checkout lady at a discount variety store.
Okay.
She didn't think I looked good, and I didn't have the strength to stand up. And so she took it on her own to call 911. And I'm glad she did. And also, did you happen to notice, because this is related, did you happen to notice that there were about 3 days recently where I wasn't calling anyone?
Yeah, I just assumed that you needed some space. I was sending you my regular good mornings, good evening messages, but usually if I don't hear from you in a couple of days, I would call the neighbor. But we had planned to talk and record on Friday or Saturday, so I kind of thought that maybe you were just waiting until Friday or Saturday because you have been weak, and I've been trying to respect that fact that you're trying to gain your strength, right? So,
yeah, I have been weak, but that's not where I'm going. Because when the ambulance came and I got back in my friend's car and he was going to drive me home, my cell phone fell out of my jacket pocket and also a set of keys. And so it's not that I didn't want to talk to you, Paula. I couldn't.
yeah.
You couldn't call me. I couldn't call you.
Yeah.
And in fact, I'm going to, just to show you my mind's still lucid, there's stories of men or women or families that have been marooned on a desert island.
Yes.
Well, I live on 100 acres at the top of a hill.
Mm-hmm.
And Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of this past week, I found out what it's like to be on a desert island by yourself. Because I couldn't take any communications coming in, and I couldn't initiate any going out.
Wow. There's 2 famous people that scenario reminds me of, and One of them is John from the Book of Revelations. He was cast out to that island alone where he wrote the Book of Revelations. And the other one is Dante. You know, the guy that wrote, I think it's from the 14th century, he wrote the Divine Comedy. He was
Okay.
cast out and he was alone too. I'm just saying that, like, you know, a lot of, and because they had nobody to communicate with, they ended up writing and prophesizing. And I just, I don't know why it, why I thought that, but being alone does strange things to people, and sometimes those things are good. So, anyways, back to you.
Okay. Well, I'm going to tell you something in my family history that's positive regarding being alone and being in jail. Are you ready?
Yeah.
In World War II, my father was captured by the Japanese when his airplane flew into the water. And for the next 16 months, he was a POW, and his life was extremely controlled and very unpleasant. Can you guess where I'm going next? Because you're going to find out here very soon.
I'm just going to let you keep going, Field.
Okay. How many months did I say my dad was confined?
16 months.
How many months do you think it was from the time I was arrested until I was released in my son's custody?
Was it 16 months?
No, I made a mistake. It was 16 months from the time I was arrested until I was allowed to come home to Wisconsin. And I didn't make that mistake on purpose, but I think I know, you know, as much as I wanted to be free and deinstitutionalized, I knew I was coming home to an empty house and a deceased wife.
Oh, I know.
And so my spirits were not high.
No.
So, but anyway, the point is, if my father can do 16 months, not only so can I, but so did I. So I'm not singing the blues. I'm not doing anything. This whole experience I've lived through, and that's the key word, through. I didn't come to the front of this experience and then fail. But so far, God himself has been caring for me.
Yeah.
And, you know, people just have to have faith in God. There's nothing God can't do. You know, I know that there's been people that are critical of you, or they don't think that you're really my closest ally, but let me lay that to bed right now. You are my closest ally. You're the one that I communicate with more than any other person. And, you know, you're from a different country, but what difference does that make? We all have the same God.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I really appreciate your friendship and your loyalty. And I wish that people that don't know their rear end from third base would stop criticizing you.
I can take it.
Yeah, well, I know you're a strong woman, but or a strong human. It doesn't matter what your gender is. But I guess to stop talking on a fairly positive note, by the end of Wednesday, we will have a better idea of what's wrong with me, because the reason they're doing blood and urinalysis is to see if there's some chemical problem in my anatomy.
Yeah. And I'll be glad, for one, to get those results back and see, so you can see what's up. Because this has been going on for too long. I watched you start to decline in October, and
Yep.
you've had some ups and downs. But a lot of people don't realize how bad it was for you. I mean, we almost lost you, in my opinion.
Well, the lady from Colorado agrees with you, and the lady from Texas, both of whom came to stay with me because they were concerned. Both of those ladies agree with you regarding, I guess the fact that I was close to being incapable of coming back. And so not only do I owe it to myself and my children and my grandchildren to come back, I owe it to God, because when the good things occur and this, whatever this is conquered, I will very clearly give all the credit to God, because God has saved me from bad things. What's the worst thing he saved me from? Well, how about airplanes that want to crash and he doesn't let them? Mm-hmm. And how about myself? He saved me from myself, and that was one of my most consistent prayers. I would always, not always, but I would often end a prayer with, thank you, God, for saving me from things that are harmful to me, most significantly, which is myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we get into those states, you went through a lot of traumatic experiences, Field, and when you're in that state of survival and you finally get through it, your body will crash. And I've been there, and it's easier sometimes. You feel like it's easier to want to give up, but you can't, because
Let me just interrupt you. I was just there. I think it was Thursday night. I was at the point where I was so exhausted, I was willing to give up.
Yeah.
But fortunately, not only did I not give up, but other people that cared about me didn't give up on me. So it's as a gift to my friends that didn't give up, and a gift to myself. I'm going to the urgent care walk-in Wednesday of this coming week, and so whatever the news is, I'll share it with you. You may not be, you won't be the first, because the guy that's driving me will be the first to know what the results are, because he's going to be in the room with the diagnostic equipment and the nurse practitioner or MD, whichever it's going to be. And so you can talk to him Wednesday night if I'm not, lucid, which I'm generally pretty lucid.
Yeah.
And so I think, this is a significant time in my life, because Thursday night was just 2 nights ago, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I was willing to cash in my chips. I had enough. But, I didn't do it, and I got the strength and the nerve to ask a couple of people for help scheduling an appointment. And see, I have a luxury of riches, because I have a lot of people trying to do things for me. But if there's 10 people trying to do what they think I need to have done, they're not working together. And, bless their hearts, they're really not working for my welfare, because I need to have one common plan for what to do next. And I reached that point Thursday night, and that's why, as of Friday, I made the decision to go to the clinic on Wednesday And I've got the paperwork to make this lady who comes to my house almost daily to check on me. She's going to have power of attorney up for medical issues. And in Wisconsin, I don't know if a power of attorney can overrule a lucid beneficiary. I don't know the answer. Maybe somebody listening does. But
well, maybe they can put it in the description box when I post this on ALGN today.
Oh, that would be helpful, and I'll bet you somebody will know the answer, even if they don't know it off the top of their head. Yeah. But they know how to go into the Wisconsin regulations and just see what a medical power of attorney is limited to or not limited to.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure somebody will know the answer. But yes, so today is Saturday, May the 6th, and I want to get that on the recording because I don't want anybody to think that I recorded this another day and decided to post it later or earlier or all over the place. It's not a cut and paste. I don't pull cut and pastes. I don't splice things together to create narratives between Field McConnell and myself. So, which that's another thing I've been accused of. And I will maintain the fact that when you are ready, you will answer anybody's question. And you have repeatedly said that. And until then, whenever you're ready, Field, we're all ready and patiently waiting for you to come back onto live radio. So,
well, I'm impatient to get that, and so I can't wait for that to be possible. But maybe for those people who think that, you've been deceitful, maybe you could ask me a very difficult question right now, and I'll answer it right away. And I don't know what you're going to ask me because we didn't have it. What's that?
Well, here, how long have we known each other?
Well, it depends on who you want to believe. Some people would say February of 2006, and some people would say more likely 2 years. So I'm trying to give you the best answer I can give you. Don't correct me on the February of 2006. I got that one firmly in my head. But how long has it been since we've been basically talking either daily or weekly?
It's been over a year. Pushing 2. I forget. I know that you and I started talking very regularly after I put out those Timothy Holmseth videos. But we were talking prior to that. But yeah, I'd say we've been very, very close and talking on a weekly, if not daily basis for a year and a half, I would say.
Okay, and I would say that for the last 8 months, we've been talking generally twice a day.
Yeah, I would agree. More often as the time went on. You and I spoke a lot more often as time went on. Especially, we were figuring out who your true allies were, who your enemies were. I mean, we worked through a lot of stuff too. When a person like yourself takes a hit like this, you do know you find out who your friends and your enemies are.
Yes, that's true.
And that's something you and I have both witnessed. In your case, I went through it in my own personal life a few years ago myself, as you know. And I wrote a lot of Dear John letters during that time. And I've not looked back. But, I had to let go of a lot of fair weather friends during my rough times. And the ones that stood by me are the ones that stood by me through my worst. And those were my true friends. And those are the people that I'll always cherish. I mean, I even met Nathan, my current husband, when I was at my very worst. And I said to God, I said, if you don't send a man, your choice of a man, to my front door while I'm at my very worst, I'll never believe that he loves me. And boom, like 2 weeks later, Nathan showed up at my door when I was at my very worst. So, and he stood by me and he lifted me up. And that's how you know, right? The people that are willing to stand by you when things are bad, not just the ones that just want to be there when things are good. So, and I think it's safe to say that you've experienced something very similar to what I did.
Yes, and let me be more specific, okay?
Okay.
Okay, a lot of the people that may hear this message come from an Able Danger or the Children's Crusade background, don't they?
Yes.
Okay, well, they'll know the veracity of what I'm about ready to say. Because I said it on live radio in January of 2015. I said that, and I had no idea who all was out there listening, but I sure found out quickly who one of them was. But I said that I'm going to be going over to speak in Telford, England, on the I'm trying to remember when it was, but I think it was probably somewhere around the 16th of February.
Yeah, I think it was February
of 2015.
Yeah.
But I said on that radio show, I said, I know how to get to the airport, and the Delta pilots know how to find Heathrow, and I know how to find people waiting for incoming passengers. What I don't know is how to get to Telford, England for this conference. And right away, 3 people, one being a female, pardon me, I'm going to start crying because she volunteered to drive me up there. And, that opens, in this case, my mind to a lot of questions. Why is she so quick to offer? And it turns out the reason she was so quick to offer, she had so much respect for what I did and how I did it. But there were also 2 men, one of them named Anthony, like Anthony without an H. And I'm drawing a blank on the other guy's name now, but he knows who he is. And he's an English retired gentleman who lives on that island that has 2 halves to it. And I think Sicily is on that island. And that man knows who I am. And they were all 3 in the chat room that day, and all 3 of them volunteered to take me to Telford. So I could see where this may be going. And right or wrong, I wanted to find out. So I ended up talking to Denise, and she and I had no romantic interludes during the 4 days we were together at Telford. In fact, she was the only person I know of that did not stay in the conference hotel. And she stayed in a bed and breakfast, and I thought that's because she was shrewd enough to keep her distance from me. And it turns out that was not the case. She did not like hotels, and so she, provided an alternative lodging type for herself. And even though we had no romantic interaction during that 4-day trip, when I got back to doing radio, and I don't know if it would have been March, probably March of 20, whatever we're in, 2016. No, 2015. Anyway, when she heard on the radio that I was going over to Heidelberg, Germany, to stand up and speak on tape in defense of the young gentleman who was accused of killing those people in Germanwings Flight 9525. And his last name was Lubitz. When she heard me say I was going to Heidelberg, she said, well, how do you get from Fargo to Heidelberg? And I said, well, on this instance, I'll be flying from Minneapolis to Heathrow, and from Heathrow to Frankfurt. And then there's a guy who works for Mercedes-Benz who's going to pick me up at the Frankfurt airport and take me to Heidelberg and be my host. And she said, well, since you're passing through Heathrow, do you think you could get off in Heathrow and spend a couple of days here? And she was very specific about the lodging arrangements. And I said, yes, I'd like to. See, I'd spent 4 days with her already. I knew what a lovely and intelligent, more important than intelligence, knowledgeable. And so I said, yes, I'll commit to that right now. When I get to Heathrow, I'll get off the aircraft so I can spend a few days with you and we can get to know each other better. And that was not suggestive, even though there were people that heard what I just said and they'd say, well, that's rather bold. No, it wasn't bold at all. I was just being honest. You know, when somebody's consistently honest, people think they're either joking or bold. No, there's also the possibility that some people are just committed to honesty. Yeah. And I'm one of those people, and so many of my enemies are not, meaning they're not committed to honesty. Yeah. So they make stuff up. Well, people that make stuff up, that stuff doesn't stick forever. No. And you know, I was a guest of the state of Florida for a number of months, but even that I was released from in stages. But it turns out some of the people that appeared to be my enemy in Florida were not my enemy. Well, other people, let's say in this area, like Minnesota, Wisconsin, that appeared to be my allies, they certainly were not my allies. And yeah, I'm not going to say who they are, but you know who I'm talking about.
Can I say who they are?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Well, as it turns out, Timothy Homseth and Randy Erickson turned out to be your enemies, and a certain Florida attorney turned out to be your ally. How ironic is that? Well,
it's very accurate in the criticism for the male and his associate up here. But what's really significant is that the person in Florida who works in the Department of Justice, that takes a lot of nerve and backbone, you know, to go 180 degrees the other way and come out and support me.
She's surprised me. She's blown my mind. That's one person that I never thought that I would ever be friends with. And then when I learned the truth about everything, I just love her today. I do. Her and I will always be friends. We know what happened. You know what happened.
Yes, I do.
And
I'm not.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not vengeful or the get even type. I know who did what they did, and every day is a new day, and I'm going to try to have my life go on. And well, on Wednesday when I get my medical report, we're going to see what the likelihood is that my life will go on, or conversely, that my life is soon to be over.
I have good feelings. I don't think God is done with you yet.
Oh, I don't either.
Yeah. There was a time I thought my life was over after going through a ton of trauma and the recovery, the road back. I mean, you have to fight through it. You really do. But making it through to the other side, which took me about, I'd say about 9 months, honestly, from the
Yep.
moment my body crashed. As soon as I got out of that survival mode, my body crashed on me. And I couldn't get out of it. And I was ready to give up then. But God had a bigger plan. And Nathan showed up and he took care of me. I'm not even kidding. And today it's mutual. I take care of him too. But at the beginning, it was one way. And yeah, we have a bigger plan. I mean, you know what Nathan and I do for a living, and that's part of God's plan. And I think that God always has been behind you. You've always been a whistleblower. You've always spoke the truth. You've always exposed corruption. And I don't think those days are over for you yet. I think that you're still needed to explain to a new wave of people that are waking up some of the history. One of my retired military friends says that you are the modern day William Cooper or Bill Cooper. And I agree. And you are very knowledgeable, and I believe that you need to share that wisdom still. So that's just my thoughts.
Well, just in case I kick the bucket, let me just tell you 5 things that I've whistleblown on where I was the initial relator. That's a legal term.
Mm-hmm.
And this is going to sound like boastful to some people, but they might as well, hang their phone up right now because they're not going to like what I'm going to say. But I'm the original person that explained to the United States government what the Boeing Honeywell uninterruptible autopilot is, and you're well aware of that, right?
I am, yes.
Okay. Then on the 8th of March of 2014, when it was reported on radio outlets around the world that MH370 had been lost in the South Indian Ocean, I participated in putting out a 5-minute YouTube called Boeing Uninterruptible Autopilot. And that thing has, to this day, there's still a bunch of weirdos trying to explain to the rest of the world, what happened to MH370. So I might as well explain that right now. MH370 was electronically hijacked through the Boeing Honeywell Uninterruptible Autopilot, and it was redispatched. In other words, when the aviation authorities realized that somebody had taken control of MH370, some good guys, and I'm not saying they're all United States good guys, but there were a number of countries that participated in recapturing control of MH370. And, I had put out the YouTube about where it went and how it got there, and it's absolutely accurate. From there, I'm trying to get the date in my head. It's March 29th of 2008, I put in writing in some of the, I will call it literature. Other people may call it garbage. But, I wrote the way I wrote because I didn't want to be killed, for putting out this volume of truth. And so, as an insurance policy, prior to my going to Malaysia to explain to 4 government officials and 15 airline experts, I departed Minneapolis on the 15th of April of whatever year that would have been. 2014. And I put in writing on March 29th that I was going to go to Malaysia and explain to their government and their officials at the airline where Malaysia 370, MH370, had gone and how it got there safely. And then I decided maybe I should give them a mild TF, and we don't need to explain what that means. People either know or they don't know. But so I put in writing that if the Malaysian officials, government and airline alike, don't share the truth of how Malaysia 370 was safely guided to Diego Garcia, which is a very secure military base in the South Indian Ocean, I said the government of Malaysia, as well as the leadership of Malaysian airline system, are going to have the opportunity to share the truth with the international aviation community. And if the truth is not shared with the international aviation community, then Malaysian airline system and the Malaysian government should fully expect to have a second explosive event no later than 7 p.m. on the 17th of July of 2014. So that's 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Okay, I did the B-8, the Boeing Honeywell uninterruptible autopilot. I was the first to explain honestly MH370, and I'm the only one that ever predicted the destruction of MH17.
Which,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
It's what?
Which is the Malaysia 370.
Yeah, it was, because it's gone now.
Yes, which was.
But see,
that's called a hinge point, correct?
Yes, go ahead and explain that if you want.
No, I'm going to let you explain it. I just wanted to make sure that we brought it up.
Okay. Well, maybe when we do live radio, we can invite a man named 107 to come on and talk about hinge points. But when I put out the suggestion or opinion, because I knew that I was going to explain to Malaysia and Malaysian airline system, how their airplane got safely to Diego Garcia. And I knew a lot of people wouldn't believe it. But based on that hinge point, and the hinge point being when I put in writing on the 29th of March of 2014, that if Malaysia doesn't explain this honestly, they're very likely are going to have another airplane blown out of the sky. And of course that happened, and it happened on the day I suggested, which was July 17th of 2014. Now, if we were to get 20 very bright people in a room and say, how in the world did I predict that so accurately? I think you know what the answer is, don't you, Paula?
I think it's divine intervention.
Yes, it was. And I've explained that many times, so I don't think I need to explain that now.
No.
But two more things that I've done in whistleblowing that are of global significance. I was the first person, I believe, to expose Serco, SERCO, and Serco is, there's a YouTube, anybody can go find it right now. It's called Serco, SERCO, the biggest company you've never heard of. Well, a lot of people have heard it now because, you know, I exposed that.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a feather in my cap, which of course it's not my cap, it's God's, because God's doing all the thinking, God's doing all the heavy lifting.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, all I do, I'm a background singer, you know, singing Kumbaya, Kumbaya over and over. And so that's four things, you know, the VUAP, MH370, MH17, and Serco. And the last thing for which I think I could be credited wrongfully, and that seems confusing, but let me explain. I exposed my sister in the senior executive service.
Yeah.
Well, I couldn't have done that without God because, first of all, who set up the dynamic where my sister was my sister, and my sister was the person who created the senior executive service, and she was asked to do that by George H.W. Bush, and she did it, and she did her job. But if I hadn't been knowledgeable of what senior executive service was, which it should be called the Department of Treason, because it was a federal branch, very large federal branch, 8,000 employees, whose their core motivation or motive or mission was to accelerate the demise of the United States of America. And, you know, as people have heard several times already in this phone conversation, you know, I could be taken out or I could fail. But it's a little late to take me out now because I've set all these 5 balls in motion. And I'm going to back up 1 ball from the 5 balls to the 4 ball. But in the case of Serco's relationship to MH370 and MH17, on the morning that MH370 flew by under the control of a Boeing Honeywell uninterruptible autopilot, I hope this is not too much pressure, but it's an opportunity to be honest. Do you know which office? Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm not saying anything.
Oh, okay. Do you know which major stockholder in Serco was on the neighboring island to Diego Garcia?
I don't.
Okay. It was Prince William.
Oh, I did know that. I had forgotten. You've told me this before.
Yeah, nothing changes.
Yeah.
I mean, but take a look at this. Here's the significance. If Prince William, who is the single largest stockholder or the only stockholder in Serco, was on the neighboring island the night the airplane came flying by, what does that suggest to anybody with a brain?
Yeah, it was set up. It's all a plan.
Yeah, he was in on the plan.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
see, I think I've done enough. I think the 5 things I've done
Yeah.
are enough to make God happy. He called on me.
Yeah. And another thing I'd like to bring up, your
Okay, go
role
ahead.
in exposing 9/11, that was huge. I know you weren't the only one there, but your video on 9/11, I think, is one of the best out there, if not the
Oh,
best.
do you remember what the name of the video on 9/11 is?
Captain Serco,
No, Captain Sherlock.
Captain Sherlock. I'm sorry, I'm saying Serco. Sorry about that, but Serco's on the cover. It is on the cover because I'm thinking of the video.
Okay.
So it's Captain Sherlock exposes 9/11, isn't it?
Solves.
Solves
Captain
9/11.
Sherlock solves 9/11.
Yeah. Yeah.
The reason I ask you which movie you're talking about is because there's a group of, I guess you'd call them documentary episodes that they're still out there on the internet, and I can try to find them maybe tomorrow, and you can print those. Or if I find them tonight, you can add it to whatever you're going to put in the info box.
Yeah.
But do you have any questions you want to ask me? Because my voice is starting.
Yeah, and you're starting to get tired. I can hear it. So let's just finish it up. I just want to ask you one question, and I know the answer to this. Who was the first person that originally exposed Mike Pence?
Mike who?
Mike Pence, Michael Pence.
Well, I think I was.
Yeah, but there was another guy too that you were credited on one of your videos, and his name was
Oh, sure, Tory Smith.
Tory Smith. Yes, I know that I know that Tory Smith said a lot about him, and then I know that you ran with it. And I just wanted to put that out there because I wanted people to understand that Timothy Homesteth wasn't the one that exposed Mike Pence. It dates back to you and Tory Smith. And I just wanted to correct the record in case people weren't aware of this truth. Anyways, back to your feed.
May I add a juicy detail?
Sure.
On the 1st of July of 2019, I learned that there was a plan to assassinate President Trump.
Yeah.
And so I didn't waste time. I got on the radio and I got, printing, and I sent a message, not directly from field to Donald Trump, but indirectly, because I've always been careful of not making visible links between myself and Donald Trump. But on the 1st of July, I sent him a message where I said, I think that there's a plan to have you inaugurated on the 4th of July. And if there is a plan, I said, if there is a plan, then the people that are behind the plan are Mike Pence, John Sununu of New Hampshire, and that's spelled Sununu, and what's his name? Little weasel.
Oh, Ryan. Paul Ryan.
Yeah, Speaker of the House.
Yeah. He's a little corn-raised weasel. He sure is.
Yes. And so I sent that message with those scant details to Donald Trump. And the following day, and, I'm not sure I could find out, but the following day, Paul Ryan and Mike Pence were on Air Force Two at Joint Reserve Base Andrews, which used to be called Andrews Air Force Base, and they filed a flight plan to fly up to, I think it was Portsmouth, New Hampshire, to join John Sununu to put the icing on the cake of the inaugural, or not the inaugural, the assassination attempt
Yeah.
on Trump, and I exposed that in sufficient detail.
You did.
So
And his
the intelligence. Go ahead.
and his plane got turned around and it was renamed. What was it renamed, Field?
Well, you're one step ahead of me.
Okay.
First of all, the trip to New Hampshire got canceled because when they called, when the Air Force Two crew called to get their clearance to fly to New Hampshire, they were denied the clearance because Trump had contacted the air traffic control architecture at Andrews Air Force Base and said, don't clear them to New Hampshire. Pardon me. My voice gets weak, but Trump said, don't clear them to New Hampshire, and also don't allow them to taxi for takeoff.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the following day would have been the 4th of July of 2019. And this is where your little snippet comes in, because somebody had exposed the Trump assassination plan in sufficient detail. Pence and Sununu and Paul Ryan could not assassinate Trump. And so Mike Pence, knowing that he was guilty of something, went to the Andrews Air Force Base and crawled into a executive transport jet, like not a Bombardier in this case. It would have been whoever the people are in this country that make the best executive jets. And so he got into a executive jet at Andrews, and the call sign was Air Force Two. Are you with me so far?
I am with you.
Okay, and it took off, and it was given a clearance, and it had a flight plan to go nonstop to Indiana, so Mike Pence could hide out in Indiana. Halfway to Indiana, the military controllers and the civilian controllers said, Air Force Two, do a 180-degree turn and proceed directly to Andrews Air Force Base. And so they copied that and they put that into action. And then they called, they being the controllers, the military controllers said, Air Force Two, this is the 4th Special Air Missions Unit at Andrews Air Force Base, and you have been ordered to change your call sign to SAM 23. Was it 236 or 239? Do you remember?
I think it's 239, but I can look it up. I have to.
Why don't you do that right now? Let's take a little vocal break and look up. Psalm 23:9 talks about a king in days of old that knew one of his officers was planning to kill him.
It's Samuel. It's Samuel 23:9. 1 Samuel 23:9. When David learned that Saul was plotting against him, he said to Abiathar the priest, "Bring the ephod." I'm not quite sure what that means. David said, "Lord God of Israel, your servant has heard definitely that Saul plans to come to Keilah and destroy the town on account of me. Will the citizens of Keilah surrender me to him? Will Saul come down as your servant has heard? Lord God of Israel, tell your servant." And the Lord said, he will.
Yeah, and I just want to point out that I said it was Psalm 23:9, and you're right. It's 1 Samuel
23.
23:9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love that because that's my dog's name, Sam, right? So, well, he's Samson, but still.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, you're starting to sound tired though, Field. So, I'm surprised you've gone at the hour. I am. I'm grateful. I'm very grateful. And I think your listeners are going to be very happy. And I am just going to put this video up right away. I'm not going to edit it or add pictures and do what I do. I think people are just so anxious to hear from you. I think that I just want to put this up today as is. Are you okay with that?
Yes, certainly. I'm okay with everything you want to do, and I hope your critics heard what I just said. You haven't steered me wrong yet, Paula. Mm-hmm. And if you try to steer me wrong, that doesn't mean I'm going to give in. No. So, yes, please put it up as soon as you can do it. And you can always add things to it later, can't you?
I can cut and splice if I want to later.
Let's not do that.
Yeah, typically I don't like to cut and splice, but I can remake the videos and add visuals later. For today, I think I'm just going to put the message out.
Yeah, we'll put it up, and you can say goodbye to me, and I'll go relax and try to recover my voice.
Yeah.
But I don't want to delay you in doing this important work for all of us.
Okay, so I'm going to say have a great evening, Field. I love you. You're one of my dearest friends. You know I'll always stand by you. And I'm ferociously protective of you, and people know that. And that's never going to change. So if you want to come at me, guys, go ahead. I bite. I bite back. I do.
Yeah.
It is what it is. So.
Well, if anybody comes after you, after this recording is posted, give me a list of names and I'll come after them too.
You know a few of them already. Anyways, but we'll save that for another day.
Okay, that sounds good. So I'll say goodbye for now. Thank you for helping me through my challenging health issue. And Wednesday night, I will communicate with you after I've been to see the urgent care medical facility.
Yeah.
And I find out what's going on with my body.
Yeah.
Because apparently there could be some infection, there could be one or two types of infections that need to be addressed. And if we can identify them, we can address them. Okay?
Excellent. Well, thank you. A lot of people will be happy to hear that. So, okay, good night and God bless. And I'll talk to you tomorrow. And I'll send you a link to the video once I upload it. Okay?
Okay, that sounds good. Good night. God bless you.
Okay.
I love you in an appropriate manner.
Yes.
And thank you for all the time you devoted to helping me.
Well, that time is always there for you. So anyways, God bless you, and I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, God bless you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
No